All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a short edition here of live trading on a Thursday afternoon. Normally, David Verbruggen would be here with you, but this is Geoffrey Nance filling in for him today as he is traveling. I am going to move over here and bring up my charts. So, you guys let me know, make sure you are seeing this here in just a second. All right, we should be good to go there. So I saw Benjamin had multiple stocks for us to look at. So let's see if we can get to those, see how many we can knock out there for you, Benjamin. So guys, listen, the first thing we want to talk about is the S&P, which is on an absolute tear. I mean, no doubt about it, guys. Nobody can really argue that we are not in a serious bullish run here. In fact, it was so hot that it broke out of our uptrend. Really, we don't even have like lines at this point where we would say, oh, this is resistance. So what we're having to do is actually go back in time. So we're kind of looking at this. Sorry, my chart's jumping around. For some reason on this browser, it does crazy things like that. I don't know why it doesn't do that on the other one, but it does it on this one. So you'll just have to kind of help me out there. But yeah, I mean, guys, this is a price point we mentioned. So that 4,300 area was really big. We blew through that this week. Got a couple of news items, I guess, Fed related. You know, they didn't raise rates. They did say they're going to twice. And initially they kind of were like, oh, and they sold off. And then they kind of like, but they're not right now. Let's roll. And so then the market just heated up again. And you can see here that we are way past any highs at all, for over a year now. So we are clearly bullish. In fact, guys, we would have to go out here to let's just see like a 3-year chart. But yeah, so what we're doing is we're just looking back here to the left going, well, what's next? And what's next is pretty high. I mean, 4470. I'm gonna say, guys, even 4500 is fairly realistic at this point. So that's where we're likely headed. We got 4500 in sight at this point. So again, you're not going to be able to find lines over here. You go, well, those are great lines. There's nothing really to see there. One thing I am kind of interested in, I'm going to take this line right here. Man, it's driving me crazy that this chart is jumping around like it does. But I'm going to grab this line right here, and I just want to connect those tops, see if I can. Yeah, let's do this, guys. So let's just watch that high and those highs because we're getting close to those. And let's just kind of see if, yeah, that's going to be interesting, right? That's going to be really interesting to see if that line holds up. It's our high from right here, and it's our high from right there. And it's still parallel to our support. That might get really interesting. So before we get all the way to 4,500, I'm going to keep a close eye on this line right here. Now, if it just blows through that, then forget it. 4,500 it is. I'll erase this line or move it back down or whatever. It doesn't matter because it's going to be irrelevant. But I'm gonna keep an eye on that for now. I think that's probably worth watching. Again, we just have a ridiculously hot market that's moving up off the 5-day EMA. I mean, that's scorching hot. So that's what we're doing here. We're just moving up off of, what is that? Just ridiculously hot market. So got to be a little careful. You don't get in too late, because you don't want to be chasing everything. So keep that in mind. All right, Benjamin, you got a list for us, man. All right, let's see here. Our screen is kind of small. All right, Jez, I'm not sure what to do about that because last time when I took myself off, then it took away the sound, and I don't want to do that. So I don't know why it's doing that. I don't want it to make it small. I don't know if you can find a way to maximize it, but I'd love for you to be able to. All right, so I'm going to pick a couple of yours. Why don't you do this for me, Benjamin? Come out here, and because we got quite a few in the list. So pick 2 or 3 of your favorites that you actually want to look at, because you know you're not trading Berkshire Hathaway. So pick a couple that you're really interested in. Drop like 2 or 3 of those in while I kind of look at some of these others. All right. So let me go out here and I'm going to catch the first one that I see here, GE. All right, so let's go back to GE. Okay, add the E. Come on. Come on, church. Add the E. And so I'm looking for GE. Yes, the E. Yes, GE. Come on. GE. There we go. All right. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about GE. So GE has been in an uptrend. I mean, that's like really obvious, right? I mean, goodness, it's been an uptrend for a while. So we would expect that after a long uptrend like this, it's going to be getting a little tired. But is it a good buy point, right? Is it a good buy point? Here's what I would say, guys. The S&P is up big. GE is still struggling, but you're right here at the 20-day. So this is a great buy point. Now, if GE fails and doesn't move up to 107, I mean, I think 107 is a reasonable price. 106.55 and 10, so somewhere between 106.50, 107. If it doesn't do that, it's just because it's run too far too long and it's tired. But this is an amazing buy point. Again, my concern is that today is a really hot day on the market. GE is right here at the 20-day. That's a terrific entry. Is it going to work? Well, it's going to have to get a little bit more momentum. The S&P's given it plenty of reason to move, but it hasn't moved. So that's somewhat problematic that it hasn't really moved when it should have. But yeah, this is a terrific entry there, Aiden. You just need it to kind of start to do its thing. That's what we really need to have happen there. 108 might be a little high, so maybe check that out. All right, and next up is CRM. Salesforce here. It's a pretty popular one. Yeah, I mean, so CRM was clearly in an uptrend. Starting to almost make a head and shoulders, though. Is it starting to maybe roll here? Can we think about this as a roll? Is it a descending wedge? See, I'm a little torn on this. So let me go out here and tell you some of my thoughts are. So horizontal line here, that's pretty clearly support. Okay, now what? So we know that that's support. Here's my problem. I don't think this is rolling. We could maybe try to make that case. I don't think it's a strong case. But we could try to make that case saying, well, CRM is going to get up to 215, maybe 216. I would be okay with that. I think there's validity to that argument. But here's my concern about this one is that when we go in here and we grab this line, and now what ends up happening, I'm just going to bring it all the way down, is I start to get concerned. Seriously, leave it. I start to get concerned a bit about this being a descending wedge. And if that is a descending wedge, then we don't have very far to go. We're not going to make it up here to that 216. Now, maybe it's not. Maybe it blows right on through this. But for some reason, whether we have the line here or whether you said, all right, let me have it. Give it to me. Or whether you said, all right, maybe it's not so much there, Geoffrey, as it is here. Okay, so you're coming in here, getting the highs. All right, and maybe it's a little bit flatter, which I think is fine, right? So we could kind of do that thing, stretch it out as far as the screen will let me go, not very far. Now, if this is the line, okay, and we say, well, CRM can break through these EMAs and it can climb because I think the S&P is going to climb, then what's a logical resistance? Then I still think you're getting up to maybe you're 218. You're entering at 211. You got to move up to 218-ish. Then that's legit. I would have some sort of defining line right here. Okay. Just to be aware of that. The professionals did opt to sell here. They did opt to sell there. I mean, those were very clear pivot points. Market clearly dropped after hitting those points. So at the very least, I want to have some idea of what might happen if this stock gets to that level again. So I don't want to assume it's going all the way up here. I don't want to assume it's going all the way up there. In fact, I would assume it's going to go lower than that, over here. I would want to have that line on CRM. So even if you believe, hey, I'm at a decent buy point still, just make sure you're calculating a lower profit target than maybe you might have had in mind. All right, Benjamin, I saw you post Apple and your revised list. Yeah, guys, I mean, we've had really, really solid lines on Apple for a while now. And what's happening, Benjamin, is Apple is getting really close to resistance, or at least what might be resistance. I've always been a little concerned about my resistance line. I just thought our support line was amazing. I used the 10-day earlier last week, or later last week. I guess technically it's later last week, to bounce up. Now it's riding up off the 5-day, but you're getting really, really close to resistance. So may not have a whole lot of room to go unless the S&P just really continues to climb. MEXX. Never even heard of that one. What is that? MEXX. Mexican bull 3 times. All right, be careful with those because they can gain and lose value fast. This one to me looks messy. I don't really know what it's doing. It was a W, but it's a gappy W. See that? So every day is a gap. Every day is a gap. I don't love that. I just don't love everyday gap stocks. So I'm not sure I like that too much. Tesla. Well, let's zoom out on Tesla. Yeah, I still can't get anything. They've been they lowered their prices and people started buying their cars again, which again is a good thing. You don't need them just sitting there in lots, whatnot, people not buying them. Yeah, I mean, it's not doing much from a pattern perspective. It's just kind of, I just call this like, guys, it's like a helium balloon. It's just kind of floating away. So I don't know that that's an actual pattern, the helium balloon floating away pattern. But basically, Benjamin, what happens with something like this is that it's so hot that you're just trying to catch it anywhere near the 5-day, which actually happened earlier today. So the question you have now is, so what about this? So now that the further away it gets, especially from the 5-day, the more likely it is to pull back, which is what you saw right here. But then they were willing to buy again. But then yesterday they were willing to sell again. Well, today they're out there buying again. So my real question about Tesla at this point is, well, what are they doing right here? You can just kind of see back there in September that there's a resistance area right there around 266. And there's a bit of a gap right here, but we're past that, right? So what are they going to do between here and there? And that's really the question. So is this really resistance? If it's not, okay, we feel pretty good about getting to 266. So now we got to go in there and do some math, figure out, well, is this a decent enough buy point based on how much it's moved today to warrant a move up to potentially 266 or maybe higher? I mean, I wouldn't anticipate this, guys, but 314 is a super ridiculously clear line, So again, I'm not looking at that, talking about that. There's a lot of other hurdles it has to get past to get even anywhere close to that. But, if the market goes all the way to 4,500, maybe Tesla gets that hot. I don't think so. I don't think they'll get that hot because, again, it's already moved up so much. I mean, guys, it's already up $80. So we really think it's going to move another, $50. So 130. And if so, what length of time are we talking about? Are we talking about 2-3 weeks or what? Like, what are we talking about there? I don't see that happening. All right, Walmart and CVN. Yeah, well, Walmart's on a bit of a tear, isn't it? So it's another helium balloon here. It's just getting super ridiculously hot. It's a horrible buy point, right? I mean, this is what's sad about this. We see a stock like Walmart, we see that it's floating away, and then we're like, well, I just want to be part of it, right? I want to get in that, hot air balloon. I want to ride this thing up, but we don't know when it's going to kind of run out of steam there. Makes it tough. You could go do a credit spread on it. That way, if it does start to tail off, you might be okay. But just trying to buy it as a straight call is really tough. Even doing it as a debit spread is pretty rough. I mean, I see an obvious candle right here. So 159.70-ish, something like that. Let's just go look. I mean, 159.88 looks like an obvious target price there. So, I mean, obviously you could be looking at that, but yeah, it's tough. It's just tough to catch those that have run away so far. And then I believe you said CVN. Wait, is it CVN or CVN? Chevron, CVX, Joseph. Yeah, because I wasn't sure. Do you mean Carvana, which I'm going to have to add an A, or do you mean something else? All right, so Carvana, yeah, this thing has been ridiculously hot too here, guys. Look at this thing shooting up. Oh, man, I was looking at that this morning. So, sheesh, it didn't look like that this morning. Waha! Yowzers, that thing is getting gone today. All right. CVX, oil and gas. Oil and gas has been tricky here recently. Yeah, it still is. See, oil and gas, man, I don't know, guys. I like oil and gas. I think trading oil and gas is great sometimes. Boy, it's just, I don't know why this administration just seems to be in a war with oil and gas. I don't know if he's just trying to make that his legacy with a year and a half to go or what. I don't know what the deal is there, but Chevron just looks like it's in a really narrow range between 160 and 157 basically. So it was like I don't know, just a really tight range between 157 and 160ish there. I don't know if you want to try to trade it in that narrow range, but again, the recent highs are your target prices there, 160, and it's not much of a move. You probably have to debit spread this. Let's see if they have dollar increments. Are we doing this just today to tomorrow? We could. Let's just see what that looks like. They do have dollar strikes. So if you did, oh no, they got 250s. Yeah, you'd have to be pretty deep in the money here. 157 by 160. $1.16 today. Yeah, I mean, 250, you're over 100% return on investment, but yeah, I don't know if I love that. I wish they'd have had dollar strike prices still. Then we could have maybe manipulated this a little bit more, maybe done like a 159 by 160. That might have been pretty sweet. But, $150 stocks don't tend to have dollar strikes. It just would have been nice. It would have fit what we were trying to do a little bit better. They don't. It's not going to do you any good to go out to next week. It's not going to change anything. you don't want to go buy more time for a move it can make in one day. So, yeah, see, nothing really changes. It just gets more expensive for the same trade. And now it's $1.30 instead. Yeah, that's but we're in the money. 157.50. You're already at 90 cents in the money. That's why it's so costly here, even for just the one that expires tomorrow. Just a little rough there. All right. Let's see. MRO and LNG. We'll go look at those. I want to do that yet. I want to be on the chart. Yeah. So same thing, I guess. Really, you've got again another oil and gas stock, Marathon Oil here, 24.28. Looks like. I mean, we can probably put a line in here. I'm just going to do a line for now. I think we can make sense of it. We can probably put a line in here, right? And that's kind of our support area. So you're at support. The resistance is not very far away, so don't be expecting too much. But again, if you thought it was going to move up to like 24, 20-ish, 30-ish, something like that, then that's still got $1 move in it. So I think it would be okay, depending on what you were trying to squeeze out of it. LNG. Yeah, hard to really tell what this is doing from a pattern perspective. This thing is pretty messy here. It's above all the EMAs. It's just pretty messy. I don't know. I don't know what to really make of this one. You got close to a resistance area today. There is a wick there on top already today. I do think 150 is a pretty, just look right here. It's pretty solid resistance somewhere in that area. So not surprising that they wicked off of that today and turned back down. At least some started taking profits. It's a little tough there. That one's kind of rough to me. Let's see. Yeah. So as far as a news perspective is concerned, I guess you could kind of do that, Joseph, and kind of say, well, oil and gas is going to go up over the summer. Here's what I do. Anytime you have a thought like, hey, I want to do this, it's real easy to take your chart, just go back in time, right? So just let's just do Chevron because everybody kind of knows Chevron. And let's just go out to like a 3-year period here. I think we can do a 3-year daily and it'll work. Just kind of go back. So you've got a theory that oil and gas goes up over the summer. Well, in 2020, oil and gas did what? Went sideways to down. In 2021, oil and gas went sideways to down. In 2022, so Chevron went up considerably. In 2023, it's going to question mark. See, so I think you can have theories and I think you can go, oh, this would make a lot of sense to me. But the great thing about having a chart is you can take your theory and actually make it a hypothesis, right? Going back to, you guys remember in science where you got your hypothesis. My hypothesis is that oil and gas stocks go up in the summer. Okay. Well, now let's set up a test. Well, here's my hypothesis. Then you go out and you have the actual ability to test your hypothesis, right? Oh, you know what? Hey, yeah. So now you got to go out there. You got to look at the results of your test and go, well, is my hypothesis correct? Does oil and gas always go up in the summer? Or do you adjust it and say, well, oil and gas sometimes makes a big run up in the summer. Oil and gas most of the time actually doesn't make a big move up in the summer, at least the last 3 years. Now, of course, you can go out there and you can do this. You can go out to a 5-year or a 10-year, right? And go out and say, well, okay, from what does this look like now? It's a little bit harder. You're going to have to try to kind of look at your chart. Just say, around the summer, what does it do? Again, 2013, what did it do in 2014? Oh man, see, none of these seem to be kind of bearing it out that it actually, did it move up? Did it not? 2014, It did. What about 2015? It did not, definitely. So 2016, flat, flat, and then it took off later. See, 2017. So, 2017, woo, look, there we go. There's one in my favor, that kind of thing. So, but I would say it was still relatively flat in 2017. Now, actually, it looks like it takes off in September and October. So what you might be able to do is adjust your hypothesis and go, wait, I thought it went up in the summer. It actually looks like, you know what? Kind of likes to take off in September, October, So you might go out there, test your hypothesis, and just like a good scientist would do, you say, well, you adjust your results, right? You adjust your theory based on what the actual results are. So that's a good thing to do. All right, very good. All right, so do you really want me to look at Berkshire here, Benjamin? All right, last one here. We'll do this for you. BRK. All right. 339. Let's zoom back in here and do something reasonable. Coming up off of the 5-day, again, it's been on a pretty nice uptrend. Not a lot from a pattern perspective. If anything, not a lot from a pattern perspective. It's generally moving up. Today's a good day. It's getting close to yesterday's high. I don't see a lot from a pattern perspective, though. It's just gotten really hot recently. So I guess there's something to be said for that. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being on with us today. Appreciate you being a part of this live trading here. Hopefully that really helped you guys think through some things. And if you're joining us again at 2 o'clock, I believe Ben Russell is filling in for Verbruggen today. So he'll be glad to cover some more stuff with you. We'll see if anything happens over the next hour and a half that changes anything, or if the S&P is still climbing and breaking through those highs. So again, thanks for being on with us today, and we will see you guys next time.